Watch you guys, for many years now, I've been telling people to stop buying these silly gaming machines that you see on places like Amazon and eBay and other places like that. The reason why is because they're just a complete scam. Why do I say that? Well, have a look at this one here. You can see that the seller is not actually disclosing what the processor is inside that machine. They're just saying it's an Intel Core i7, up to 3.9 gigahertz, 4-core, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and it just tells you the basic information that you need to know. It just tells you that it's an i7. There's many different generations of i7. It tells you there's 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of SSD, and an RTX 2060. Now you might be thinking, that's pretty decent, RTX 2060. It's a pretty good card. But at the end of the day, what are you getting for your money? $600 or thereabouts is going to get you a old PC. If you look at the actual images here, even on the i7, it doesn't tell you anywhere in the images, but I can see that motherboard inside there, and that gives me enough information to find it on the internet. I can also use the actual processor, the information he's given me about it, so I can actually find what type of processor would be inside that actual unit there. It's got a small board inside a large case. It's got some glittery fans. It doesn't take much to work out that it's an old system. Now, the motherboard may be new, but I can guarantee you that processor is old. And when you come down and look at all the information, it shows you some fancy pictures here with RGB. Still doesn't tell you exactly what i7 it is. But with that i7 3.4 gigahertz up to 3.9 gigahertz, that gives me a little bit of information. Also, I've done a bit more research to find out that it is actually an i7 4th gen. I'll show you exactly how I did that in a second, but you can use that information to find information on the internet. Also, looking at the description here, it still doesn't tell you exactly what that processor is. And this is where the scam comes in. They're not being truthful about what parts are inside there. So if you go to Intel's website, you can see right down here, it says 3.9 gigahertz, also 3.40 gigahertz base clock there. So it tells you what the processor is, and it is actually an i7 4770 processor, which is a 4th gen processor, which means it's old. Now, it doesn't mean the processor is rubbish. It just means that it's really old and it's come from an old system. It's used. And you can pick these up pretty cheap. Now, there's no information in here, but if I look at this motherboard, I can get some information about what this motherboard is. And this motherboard is from Taiwan or Thailand or something like that, as you can see here. It's a cheap motherboard. It's exactly the same as what's there in that photo. And it's about £40 to buy these. And he's probably buying them in a job lot, which means he's getting them even cheaper. So this is a new motherboard, but it's really sort of for old processors, as you can see here. The 1150 socket Longwell H81-B8HV2. That's what the motherboard is. And you can pick these up pretty cheap. And these are made for, you know, the older processors out there on the market. This is a 4th gen processor, supports i5 and i3 and i7. And this is what people are doing nowadays. Now, you might be saying to yourself, where is the scam? Well, the scam is that you're buying old hardware. You're literally buying old architecture, and it's being sold as new architecture. Bung in a couple of RGB fans and you've got yourself a gaming system, and they can sell it as that. The problem is they're not disclosing what the hardware is. They're not telling you what i7 in there is, and you might be thinking you're buying a modern day i7 processor, which would certainly cost a lot more money than what they're selling that PC at. But why don't they tell you what processor it is and give you the choice of making up your mind whether you want to buy an older generation of CPU like that? And why don't they disclose what type of motherboard it is, a cheap branded motherboard? And again, coupled with your RGB here, which are pretty cheap bundles of RGB, makes this PC look pretty tempting with that GeForce RTX 2060. But again, all you're buying is old hardware, really. And once you look at this, it doesn't make it so much of a good deal anymore. And there's loads of them on Amazon. They're still selling this one here, i3. Again, not disclosing what type of i3 it is. Guaranteed it's going to be the old generation, i3, 500 gigabytes hard drive in there. These are probably all old stock, you know what I mean? And you can see here the GT710, a total giveaway for selling old rubbish and selling it at high prices. And these prices are absolute extortionate prices. They have put in here the frame rates here, but they've got example depending on the game that you're playing and the monitor you're using. But if you look at the picture for the GPU, that is not a GT710 in there. That is some totally different card in there, which is definitely not a GT710, I can tell you. Again, you can see with the motherboard in there, it's going to be, you know, a pretty cheap motherboard, ketchup and mustard cables, which means it's going to be a cheap power supply, which is not going to be that great. So again, be very careful. Now the graphics card says a GeForce GTX on it. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's just scamming people, putting the wrong images inside the actual PC to make you think that you're going to get a nice beefy card like that. And it's just scamming. And they don't tell you exactly what hardware you're getting for your money. So if you see things like this, educate yourself and start learning about what they're actually doing here. And if you find anything like this online, then just steer clear of it, because I can guarantee you, you're going to end up buying yourself a PC that is not worth the money that they're selling it for. This one is £300. This is in the UK. And when you're buying these PCs, because of poor quality power supplies in them, you're buying your own indoor personal fireworks display when it goes off, because it will definitely blow at some point and take all the hardware with it. This one does actually tell you it does have an i7-2600 in it. So they are actually telling you it's got older parts in it. It also says GTX 750, but they still want $549. And this is where YouTube comes in, because there's plenty of YouTube creators out there showing you how to do this particular thing, where you can rip out motherboards from old hardware and then basically make a really cool looking gaming PC and then flip them for profit. If you're one of those people that are doing this particular sort of stuff, make sure you list all of the content inside that machine and be honest. Tell people when they're used parts and be honest about the build, so people understand what it can actually do and what it can't do and what they're actually getting for their money, and don't overcharge for it. Don't become a snake oil salesman and start, you know, misleading people to make profit on someone's lack of education when it comes to PC hardware. Don't become that scammer on the internet that is putting articles up selling old used hardware and trying to make it look like it's some modern day gaming PC by ripping out old parts and putting them in a modern day case and then flipping them at ridiculous prices. You're just becoming a scammer and a rip-off merchant. Now, you do get some sellers online that are selling these at pretty high prices, but they are disclosing what you're getting for your money. This one here is an i7-6700, which is a much more modern CPU. It's for 6th generation. Again, a little bit on the pricier side, but at least they're disclosing the information that is needed. Now, Amazon need to make a rule where everyone needs to list exactly what's in that build when they're selling it, i.e. what make and model is the processor, what the RAM is in there, the speed of it, and what type of RAM it is, what motherboard, make and model number it is, so it's nice and clear for people to understand. There is tons of them on Amazon that are doing this particular type of, you know, scamming people. There's an i5-2500 that is old as the hills, it really is, and people are selling it for $519. I mean, I know there's people out there that are gullible and will pay these prices because they don't understand. Now, a lot of these sellers know what they're doing. They're pitching these PCs at around about $500 to $600, which is where a lot of people are looking at buying a gaming PC. The $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 PCs, they're much more thinner. You can't sell them at that sort of price point. Whereas a lot of these ones at $500, $600 are being sold quite often. So it's quite easy to make money from these. Now this one here is $699, but at least the guy has told you exactly what processor you're getting. i5-10400F, also GTX 1660S, and you're getting also DDR4 RAM and an NVMe M.2 500GB drive in it. At least you're getting more modern hardware for your money here. Yes, it's going to have a budget motherboard in here and also going to have some budget fans and also a budget power supply. You're probably going to end up having those types of things in there 400 watts by looking at the image on there, which is a bit on the low side, and it's probably an unknown brand, some sort of Chinese brand. So again, that would be the first thing I would change. But if you're going to start doing all of that, then you may as well build your own PC. Some people can't build their PCs themselves, and this is what they're left with. So they get forced into buying something like this, and you can end up buying something that's not that great. Anyway, be careful out there, guys, when you're looking for brand new PCs this year. Hope this one helps you out. My name has been Brian from briteccomputers.co.uk. Just want to say a quick shout out to all my YouTube members who have joined my YouTube members group. I really do appreciate the support. Hopefully I'll catch you on the Discord server for a chat, or I'll catch you in the very next video. Bye for now.